on these specific pages, but then sometimes you can sign, that's not a word. Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I'm sure you noticed something different. There is no background. Instead, I am sitting in front of one of my bookshelves, and that is because this week's topic is about reading in grad school. Now, before I move any further, you know what I'm going to do. If you have not already done so, please subscribe to my channel, and if you like this video, please be sure to click like. If you would like to read the blog for this particular video, you can check that out at xjonespennies.blogspot.com, and if you are interested in contacting me, you can contact me via my website at xjonesconsulting.weebly.com. So like I said, this particular video is focusing in on surviving reading in grad school. So there are so many of us who are in grad school and we are really trying to figure out how are we going to get through this reading. The fact of the matter is there is a lot of reading. It's just one of the things that comes with grad school. So I've decided to give you 6 things that have helped me as I've gone through all of the reading that I've had to do for all of my programs. So just stay tuned and I will give you those tips. Okay, number one is acceptance. Okay, you need to accept that it's going to be a lot of reading and it's probably going to eat up a good amount of time in order to get it done. You cannot think that you'll be able to knock something out in an hour or two because that's just really not feasible for the amount of reading that you're going to have. So once you accept that it's going to be a lot of reading and you will have to dedicate a good amount of time to it, then it's easier to navigate and to figure out, okay, what are my steps? What am I really going to do to make this reading something that is realistic for me? Number two is going to save you a ton of time. Review your assignments. So if you are in a grad school program that's online, everything is already posted. That's the beauty of online. Everything is already there for you. But in general, professors already know what they're going to assign. So make sure you check those assignments out because every reading is usually attached to some sort of an assignment. And once you read through the assignments, you'll realize that sometimes they say something as explicit as you need to check this particular text by this particular author, these pages, this particular figure. You make sure you're looking at all of that information, and then that helps to streamline your reading dramatically. In some cases, it's general, but they give you general topics, and so you may notice that your professor has assigned chapter 6, 7, and 8, but you only really need to read chapter 8 in order to get that assignment done. That's going to help to streamline your reading. Now, I will say this, just because one assignment focuses in on one particular chapter, it doesn't mean you don't need to read the rest of the chapters. Those chapters may be much more relevant later on in the class. So yes, you need to get through that reading, but it's not as pressing to get it done maybe in that particular week. You may be able to wait until the weekend to knock it out, or you may be able to wait until, a week or two later in order to knock that reading out. Number 3, this is something that I would tell my students, but as adults, we still need to preview the text. It is crucial to helping you strategize. So there are some texts that you'll notice are, they're very dense. They look almost like a stream of consciousness. Those are going to take a long time to read. But then there are some texts that are really set up almost like workbooks. And so everything is very organized and it's walking you through a process. Those don't always take that long to read because they have so many different activities that you have to do in them. So you need to really look and preview the text. How am I going to actually read this text? Is this something that's super dense that I know is going to require a long time to read? Even though it's a 2-page article, this particular article is packed with so much information that it's going to take me 2 hours to read it. Or it may be 50 pages out of a text, but the text is filled with so many activities that it'll take you maybe 30 minutes or an hour to get through that 50 pages. So just make sure you always preview your text before you start to read because it's going to help you figure out how much time you really need to read. Okay, number 4, estimate your actual reading time. So after you've gone through and you've previewed everything, now you'll get a gist of, okay, this will probably take me about an hour. That's definitely 2 hours. Or some things you're like, oh my God, that's going to take me 4 hours. That's going to take a long time to get through. Because this is going to help you also continue to strategize because this will lead to our next thing. You need to know how much time you're going to have to dedicate to getting your reading done so that you can actually complete the assignments that need to be completed. So number 5 is actually directly related to number 4. After you know how much time you're going to need to read, you need to create a reading schedule. And this is going to vary based on who you are and what kind of life you live. So for an example, when I was in the classroom, I could read during my prep periods. If everything was done, copies were made, lesson plans were done, and you just had 50 minutes or an hour, depends on what kind of school you work in. I could sit and I could read during my prep periods, and that was fine. And so it helped to really streamline my day. So when I got home, I was able to do other things. However, in my new role, that is just not something that is a possibility for me. So I have to make sure that I set certain times to the side that I can read. So there are certain days out of the week that I know that I'll be reading, and I generally try to block them out into 3-hour blocks so that I can just get as much reading as I can get done. So I may read in the evenings after 8 p.m. or I'll wake up early in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'll be sure to read before I go into work. But you just need to create a time that you can read, it's uninterrupted, and you can get everything you need to get done. And number 6, I think this is something people don't always think about, but you really need to think about who you are as a reader and your particular reading style. I know that there are some people, they can pick up a text, put it down, and then go back to it and they're fine. Some people can read everything and then it just sticks and it's great. For example, those things don't work for me. So I have to have large chunks of time set to the side so that I can read everything at once. I can't stop in the middle of something because I'll completely forget what I read before, or I'll forget how to make the connections to all the other texts. So I generally have to just sit and hammer through everything. I have to highlight as I read. I have to take notes as I read. I have to take notes about things that I may want to talk about in my post for that week. So those are strategies I know work for me, and those are things that I always have to do. So you really need to think about, what are things that work for me? Do I need to highlight text? Do I need to take notes on text? Can I read? Do I have to read for an hour and then stop? Do I have to read for 30 minutes and take a 10-minute break? But you need to figure out what works best for you, because if you don't figure out what works best for you, then you'll find yourself struggling through all of those texts that you have to read. Well, I'm just going to do a quick recap about those 6 things that help me as I'm trying to do all of my reading, and I hope that they will also be very helpful for you. So number one is acceptance. You need to accept that there's going to be a lot of reading. Number 2, you need to review your assignments beforehand. You need to know what exactly you need to read. There's nothing worse than reading for an hour or 2 and realizing the text you're reading isn't even related to what you need to do for that week. It's just like, oh my God, that was such a waste of my time. I could have been doing something else, or I could have been done with another reading. Number 3, preview the text, because you need to figure out, is it going to be something that I can read through quickly, or is it something that's really dense and I really need to dedicate a lot of my focus to? Number 4, estimate your actual reading time. You need to figure out how much time you really will need to read. Do not be completely ambitious with it. Be very realistic about how much time you know you're going to need to read. Number 5, you need to create a reading schedule, because you need that uninterrupted time to read. If you don't create a reading schedule, the reading just will not get done. And number 6, you need to determine your personal reading style. What works for you? Because if you don't know what works for you, then you're going to struggle with your text. You're going to struggle with trying to understand everything and relate everything as it needs to be related. And you're going to struggle with writing those assignments that you need to write. So thanks so much for tuning in this week. Thanks for sitting with me in front of one of my bookshelves so you can see some of the books that are just hiding back there that I have. If you liked this video, please be sure to click like, and if you haven't already done so, please be sure to subscribe to my channel. If you would like to read the blog for this particular video, which will be up and posted, you can check that out at xjonespennies.blogspot.com. And if you would like to contact me, you can contact me via my website at xjonesconsulting.weebly.com. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I will catch you next time.